We continue now at the top of Daf Samach Gimel Amud Aleph and Meseches Zevachim. This is Zevachim Daf 63a. The Gemara continues. Amar Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama says, Kol Kivshei Kevoshim, all of the minor ramps that went by the Mizbeach. Again, the Gemara mentioned on the previous Amud, there was a ramp that went to the top of the Mizbeach, but there was also ramps on that ramp that went to the ledge of the Mizbeach, that went to the base of the Mizbeach. So those minor ramps, Shalosh Amos La'ama, it was 3 Amos per Amma. What that means is that every Amma that it rose, there was 3 Amos of run. That was the slope of those minor ramps. Chutz mi kivsho shel mizbeach, with the exception of the actual ramp of the mizbeach itself. There the slope was more gradual. Shaya shalosh amos umechza v'etzba ushlish etzba bizachrusa. Over there, when it went up 1 amos, so again there was a run then of 3 amos and a half and an etzba and a third of an etzba, and so therefore again it was a more gradual slope by the main ramp. And when the Gemara says etzba bizachrusa, the reference over here is that etzba over here means bizachrus. It's measured by the tip of the thumb, meaning the thick part of the thumb. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Menachos hayu nikmatzos b'chol makom ba'azara karba mincha. The fistful would be taken anywhere, it could be taken anywhere in the azara. V'nechalos lifnim min hakloim lezichrei kahuna. And they're eaten within the kloim, within the curtains of the azara to the male kohanim, by the male kohanim, b'chol maichol, and they can be prepared in any manner, liyom v'layla, for a day and a night, ad chatzos, until chatzos. Rashi explains, hayunuk matzos, b'chol makom ve'in tu'un in safon, there's no requirement of the north of the azara, lifnim min hakloim lezichrei kahuna, eaten by the male kohanim within the curtains, d'chsiv l'chol karbonim, l'chol minchasim, l'chol chatosam, v'samach le, ba'kodesh hakadoshim tochlenu, kol zachar yochalo. So it says it should be eaten b'kodesh hakadoshim by the male kohanim. Liyom v'layla ad chatzos, it's for a day and a night until chatzos. The alfinon mi minchas lach metoda. We learn it out from minchas lach metoda. And so therefore, again, that's how you know a yom v'layla ad chatzos. And the Gemara says, Amar Rebbe Elazar says, mincha shenikmitza behechol kashera. If the kometz was taken, if the fistful was taken in the hechol itself, not in the azara, that's also kosher. Shekein matzino besiluk bazichin, that's what we find by the removal of the bazichin. The bazichin were the bowls of frankincense by the lechem haponim. There also, that's done in the hechol. Rashi explains, shekein matzino besiluk bazichin shein azkara leminchas lechem haponim. That was the azkara, essentially, that's the equivalent of the kometz by a carbon mincha. That's for the lechem haponim, is the siluk bazichin. K'dechsev, is it written v'haisol lechem la'azkara? It says in the pasuk it'll be for the lechem, for an azkara. Umatir nas halechem, that's what is the matir, the permitter of the bread. V'silukan me'al shulchan haponim shebehechol b'makom kmitza d'menachos hanik matzos. Removing them from the shulchan haponim in the hechol is the same as the kmitza by carbon mincha, and so therefore, since the siluk bazichin is done in the hechol, so to a mincha shenikmitza behechol is going to be kosher. And the Gemara continues, Meisav Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks the following question from a brisa. The pasuk says, "V'kamatz misham." It says they take the kmitza from there. Mimokom sheragle hazor omdos. It's from the area where the zor is allowed to stand. Meaning to say again, it's the area of the azara. Ben Beseira Omer Ben Beseira says, "Minayin shem kamatz bismol." From where do we know that if the kmitza is done with the left hand, sheyachzer v'yikmotz biyamin, that he should go do it again with the right hand? Talmud lomar misham. The pasuk says misham, from there, meaning mimokom shekamatz kfar, from the area where he already took the kmitza, he should do it again. And Rashi explains, Mimakom sheragle hazar omdos, from the area where the zar, the non-Kohen, can stand. Le'el kai, that's going on what it says earlier. Vehevi hazar el b'nei Aaron ha-kohanim, it says the zar brings to the kohanim. V'kamatz misham melo kumtza, when he takes the kmitza. Mashma mimakom shahabailim omdin sham, that implies it's the area where the owners are standing. V'kasal gadai tachashana, right now we think, lesor bein ha'ulam ka'asi she'ein zar nichnas l'sham, it's to say that it's forbidden already once you get to the entrance hall, because that's where the zar is not allowed to enter, and so that's what we're saying. It has to be specifically where the zar stands, and therefore it implies that it's not allowed to be done in the heichal. And the Gemara continues, Iko diamri, there are those that say, Hu mosiv lo v'hu mefarik lo, that he asked the question and he answered the question, referring to Rabbi Yirmiyah. And Iko diamri, and some say as follows, they have the version as follows, Amar le Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa, that Rabbi Akiva said to Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa, Asab roloch, I'm going to explain it to you, Lo nitzrocha ela lahachshir kol ha'azara kula. What the Bryce is really teaching is to say that the entire azara is kosher for the kometz. It doesn't mean to say that the heichal is problematic, it just means to say that the entire azara azara is okay. And what does that mean? Because one might have thought, Hoil va'ola kache kachim, since the ola is kache kachim, it's the holiest of holies in terms of the types of karbanos, it has more kedusha. Umincha kache kachim, and mincha also, the carbon mincha is also kache kachim. So one might think, ma'ola tu netzafon, af mincha tu netzafon, just like the ola needs to be in the north of the azara, as we've said, it has to be slaughtered in the north of the azara. So too the komets by the mincha needs to be in the north of the azara. And so therefore, since you might have thought that, the Bryce is saying, no, the entire azara is good, is kosher for the carbon mincha to take the komets. But the Gemara says, why would you learn from ola? Mala ola shekain kolil. Ola is unique because it's entirely burned on the mizbeach. But still, mechatas, we might have learned from chatas, because chatas also has to be in the north of the azara. Mala chatas shekain mechaperes al chayve krisos, but chatas is also unique. It's a kapar, it's an atonement for liabilities of kares. But still, Asham, maybe we would have learned from Asham, that's also in the north of the Azara. Mal Asham shekain mine damim, but Asham is a type of a carbon that involves blood. So Mikulu, so let's learn them out from the combination of all of them, but you can't. Malakulu shekain mine damim, all of them are types of blood, they're carbonos that involve blood, and so therefore you would not have learned from these carbonos to carbon mincha. And so why would we ever have thought that the entire Azara would not be kosher? So Ella, rather, Itzrich, it is necessary to teach this, because one might have thought, it says you're going to bring it close to the Mizbeach, and take the komets. And so you might have thought, just like bringing close to the Mizbeach is by the southwest corner, then one might have thought that's also true by the Kmitza, it has to be by the southwest corner. Kamash Malon, again, that's what the Bryce is teaching us. It's teaching us the entire Azar is kosher for the Kmitza. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Shlamim sheshachtan behechol, carbon shlamim that are slaughtered in the hechol, ksherim, that is kosher, doesn't have to be in the azara, the hechol is good as well. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, v'shachtu pesach ol moed, that they'll be slaughtered at the entrance of the ol moed. V'lo yehei tafel chamer mino ikr, what is secondary should not be stricter than what is primary. The hechol is primary, the azara is secondary, and so therefore certainly the hechol should be good for slaughtering the shlamim. The Gemara continues, Meisri, we have a question from the following Bryce, Rabbi Yochanan ben Beseira Omer, Rabbi Yochanan ben Beseira says, Minayin shem hikifu ovdei kochavim es kol ha'azara. From where we know, let's say the ovdei kochavim, the idolaters, they surround the entire azara. Sha'kohanim nichnasin l'sham v'yochlan sham kachei kachim. That the kohanim would be allowed to enter there. They could enter into the hechol and eat kachei kachim over there. How do we know that? Talmud lomar b'kodesh hakadoshim tochlenu. We learn it from the pasuk. The pasuk says b'kodesh hakadoshim tochlenu. And so the Gemara now asks, why do we need a pasuk? If you have the argument of lo yehei tafel chamer mino ikar, v'amai, why should we need a pasuk? Nema b'chatzar oel moed yochlua. We should say that the pasuk says it's eaten in the courtyard of the oel moed. V'lo yehei tafel chamer mino ikar, and that which is secondary should not be stricter than that which is primary. Apparently, we don't make the argument of tafel chamer mino ikar in this case of eating the kachei kachim. And the Gemara says, hachi hashta, what kind of comparison are you making between slaughtering and eating a carbon? Hasam avoda da'adam oved b'makom rabo amrinon, there where it's an avoda, the person is doing a service in the Beis HaMikdash, and a person does that in the place of his master. So there, amrinon, there we say, lo yeh tafel chamer min ha'ikar, that what is secondary should not be stricter than what is primary. That makes sense when it comes to the avoda in the Beis HaMikdash to make such an argument. But achila, when it comes to the eating of the karbanos, de'ein adam ochel b'makom rabo, in general, a person is not supposed to eat where his master is. So therefore, lo yeh tafel chamer min ha'ikar, lo amrinon, we don't make the argument of lo yeh tafel chamer min ha'ikar in that situation. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Chatas ha'of, the bird carbon chatas, haisanasis al keren duromis ma'aravis, that was done on the southwest corner of the Mizbeach. Uvechol makom haisa ksheira, really was kosher to be done anywhere. Elazeh haisa makoma, but that was the proper place. Ushloja devarim haisa osa keren mishameshes, and there were three things that corner was used milmata, below. Again, there's a midpoint of the Mizbeach, so the lower part of that corner. Ushloja milmala, and then there are three things that are done above the upper part of the Mizbeach, again at that corner of the Mizbeach. And what are they? Milmata, from below, is chatas ha'of, the bird carbon chatas, v'hagashos, and then the bringing close, v'ushiyore hadam, and the bringing closer refers to the Karba Mincha, and the Shiari Hadam refers to the remnant of the blood that's poured to the base of the Mizbeach. Umilmalan, and then in terms of what's done on the upper half of the Mizbeach, that refers to Nisach Hayayin, the libations of the wine, V'hamayim, and the water. V'olas ha'of kishiraba b'mizrach, and the olas ha'of, the bird carbon ola, when it was too many of them in the east. Kala olan la Mizbeach, olan derech yamin, everybody who went up on the Mizbeach would go derech yamin, would go on the right side. And Rashi explains, Chatas ha'of haisanasis, again, the beginning of the Mishnah said that the Chatas ha'of was done on the southwestern corner, but it could be done anywhere, but this was its place. Rashi says, B'gemara yolef menole, the Gemara will learn out where this is from. And then B'chol makam haisak sheira b'gemara parich my kamer, the Gemara will ask, what exactly does this line in the Mishnah mean? And milmata means lamata min hachut, that's again below the chut, that refers to the chut hasikra, the midpoint of the Mizbeach. Chatos yolef b'gemara shi lamata, Chatos is going to be learned in the Gemara that it's the lower half of the Mizbeach. Hagoshos refers to shal minachos kodem kmitzasan, again they would bring the mincha close to the Mizbeach before taking the fistful. Kedechsiv v'higisha, like it says in the pasuk, it's written v'higisha v'gemar yolef hakeren minole, the Gemara will learn out where do we know the corner from. Ushiyare hadam shel chatos hachitzonos, the remnant of the blood of the outer carbon chatos, uv'gemar mefarish law, the Gemara will explain this. Nisach hamayim v'hayayin, the libations of water and wine, shesham hayu shisen, that's where the shisen were, again that's the area where these liquids drained. V'efshel anasech kim sham, it was impossible to do the libations except for there in that area. V'ola sa'of kashiraba b'mizrach, when there were too many bird carbonolas in the east. The ikar mekomen bekeren dromis mizrach, is because really the main place for the ola sa'of was in the southeastern corner. Kidem afarish time of the Gemara, the Gemara will explain the reason. Mibnei shakrova lebeis hadeshen lizrok shama mora v'notza, because that was near the beis hadeshen where the ashes were, where the mora notza parts of the bird were thrown. Kidechsiv v'hishlech osa, the gomer, like it says in the pasuk el makom hadashen, it says that you throw it to the area of the deshen. But when there was a lot over there, sheyesh kohanim harbe ba'oso hakeren asukin ba'olos, which means there were a lot of kohanim there dealing with these olos. Ve'in lozem makom besovev lamod, there was not a place to stand by the ledge. Shola nasis lamalo, because the ola was done in the upper half of the mizbeach. So ba'alo lekeren ma'arav is droma. So then instead he would come to the southwestern corner. Sha'af hi smucha lebeis hadeshen, that's also close to the beis hadeshen. Mishar shtei hakornos, it's closer than the other two corners. Shebeis hadeshen samach lekevesh haya b'mizracho shel kevesh, because the beis hadeshen was near the ramp, by the east of the ramp, v'leduromo shel mizbeach, and to the south of the mizbeach. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Gimel Amid Beis.